Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you, of course, by BB. Reminder that there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to be able to talk about these markets. I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Max, Tucker, and Jackus. Welcome, guys, and welcome to the audience. Hope you guys are enjoying a bit of the lower time frame fireworks that we've had on Bitcoin this morning. Looking like it maybe wanted to finally give us that breakout above 71K in a very quick move around New York Open. And then we got some news, right? I want to say the dump started a little bit before the news, but we got some news about Coinbase and the SEC. We'll talk about that more in just a second, guys. But you know what I'm about to ask you for. You've been slacking the last few. Shows. We've kind of ignored it, but I'd love for you guys to get back on track. Start smashing that like button. Bitcoin needs you to break through resistance. We need to smash that like button. It needs all the support that it can possibly get. But yeah, we always appreciate when you guys like the stream, like the video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you're a new viewer and you enjoy the content, that option is available for you as well. But to all of our usual viewers, welcome back. Let's get into the charts. Let's get into the markets. Like I said, Bitcoin did kind of feign that breakout this morning above 71K. Started dumping after we swept the high, and then shortly after, because I want to say the news dropped after we started dumping on the lower time frame. I mean, maybe we can timestamp it and see for sure, but I do kind of think this move was probably playing out regardless of the news that we got, which was, right, the SEC, I think, suing Coinbase, which who cares? That I'm gonna start by saying that I don't care about the SEC one bit. And as far as we know, Gary Gensler might be on the way out here in about 6 to 8 months. So it does kind of feel like he is really trying to sink his talons in for as long as possible here with the usual suspects. And we've seen that through the FUD on both ETH and Coinbase really over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. But Bitcoin's responded pretty well, right? I mean, we're almost back at 70K. Altcoins have already shown strong buyback. Just like the last ETH FUD, the market's shown that it doesn't really seem to care what Gary Gensler has to say. I think that's really indicative of, how news tends to be, interpreted in trends. And in bear trends, we saw FUD interpreted as like, okay, I'm going to start selling.
Don't even use that word on this show, Tommy. Okay? I'll use that word on this show.
And then you have, I mean, Will's right. There's really no need to be bearish. There's really no need to be upset. But then you see in these bull trends, we get this FUD and the market does not care. They are used as lower time frame manipulation for entries on a lot of these coins, as I've already kind of seen. So Bitcoin looks strong back at 70K, really shrugging off the news that we got this morning. And it really does feel like another all-time high being made by Bitcoin at this point feels a little bit inevitable. So we'll see what we get the rest of the week. But of course, we want to see 67, 68K continue to hold for that upside continuation. Otherwise, maybe we just keep ranging. I know that's something that we've talked about as well. But altcoins, man, I mean, it's just hard to be bearish when altcoins are showing as much opportunity as they are, right? I mean, I look across the board at what is strong.
Jock, stop spamming before I come for you.
Oh yeah, we got some meme coin spammers. Here's what I will say, guys. We had a lot of spamming of meme coins in the chat, which is funny after a few times, but if you are spamming the chat, we are going to ban you from further streams. And we don't want to have to do that, but we don't appreciate spam clogging up the YouTube section for other people. But either way, guys, I have been rambling on a little bit. I think Bitcoin looks fine. I think altcoins look fantastic. It's just a matter of time before we really start to see some upward thrusts over in that market. And meanwhile, in equities, it's like I said it this morning on the Giga Chat call. As long as equities, you don't have anything to talk about, that's a great thing for crypto, right? As long as equities are doing absolutely nothing, which is kind of really what they've been doing the last few weeks. But as we've been talking about, and similarly to crypto, it does seem like small caps are really perking their head up out of the weeds and looking to start ripping to the upside, just like altcoins in crypto. But all that and more we're going to talk about on this show, guys. I'd love to know what you guys are seeing in the markets and the charts.
Matt, can you read our comment section when time is done?
How we're reacting to, of course, this Coinbase news and everything in between. What are we seeing, guys?
Yeah, guys, real quick, I'm going to echo what Tommy said. If you send more than 4 or 5 consecutive messages, you're going to get banned, man. Because we like to be able to read the comments to highlight, your guys' voices and thoughts as well. It's fun to engage with you guys while we're live here, but you ruin it for everybody, guys. Like this is, this is obscene, man. This is obscene. Jock, you get 1 free pass, man. That was your free pass. Next time, you're out, man. I know you're a regular, but you can't do that. You can't ruin it for everybody, okay? All right. You get 1 free pass. Guys, let's put it this way.
He's on a thin ice.
I've been saying this for a couple weeks now since we, Bitcoin locally topped at, 73 and change. A lot of our favorite altcoins have been kind of reaccumulating and chopping. We have a few days left of March, and that also implies that we have a few days left of Q1, which also implies that we only have a few days until Q2. Now, for those that don't really trade off of a calendar, that's fine. I look at it, somewhat regularly. I think that it does matter. Sort of like how the weeks roll over, how the months roll over, how the quarters roll over, closes and opens. They do matter. So I will say this, Q1 more times than not does typically set the tone for the rest of the year. All right. So if we get a really bullish Q1, you are primed to more or less have a bullish remaining 3 quarters. Okay. That doesn't mean it's straight up a straight line necessarily, but more times than not, and that's all you can really do as a trader and as an investor, is try to apply all of this sort of lower time frame, some of the rollovers, right? How did the week close? How did the 2-week close? How did the monthly close? How did the quarter close? To the broader context of where the market is at, and place high probability bets, and push it when it's time to push it. So, as we approach, and by the way, what I was going to actually say, and I kind of got sidetracked giving context, is I'm not really expecting us to just launch before Q2. I'm expecting us to just sort of range and chop through the remainder of Q1. I hope that, we close near the highs on everything as we close the month, because if we have a wick to the upside, it's obviously not as bullish as if we just get a nice body close for the Q1 and also March monthly close. I would appreciate, less wick to the upside, but ultimately I don't think it really matters too much. I'm concerned 0% with any of this news-driven volatility, specifically with the SEC. It will take years for this to actually get sorted out. So I'm viewing it as just noise right now. I think, like Tommy mentioned, perfectly in his opening remarks, this move was more or less going to happen whether it was catalyzed by a news event or just some traders stepping in and preying on those that are eager above 71.3. Okay, it makes perfect sense why this happened, and yeah, it aligned with the New York session open, and the news tweet hit, and it was right at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Of course, who could have foreseen? But I said this pre-market out. We were talking with our Discord, and I said, whether we swing fail this, at the time we were at 71.3. I said whether we swing fail this or we just chat up to new highs before the end of March, nothing really matters until we get the Q2 open, for me at least. That's what I'm patiently waiting for. And I feel like kind of a broken record, right? Like we come on here every day and we're like, oh, guys, the best is yet to come. Just wait. It's like, just wait. But it's true. Like there is just as much value in, knowing when to sit on your hands and wait and hold as there is prospecting new plays, if not even more. It's kind of like, it's kind of like, what's better, like a new customer or retaining an existing customer? Well, in my opinion, it's better to retain an existing customer for a lot of different reasons. So for me, I'm in the business and the mindset right now of retaining existing positions and understanding contextually where the market is at as a whole, so that I don't get chopped up and I don't fumble these bags that I think are still primed for higher. And in my opinion, we're set for a really solid Q2. On top of a fresh Q2 open coming off the back of a strong Q1, we also have the Bitcoin halving next month. Okay. So there's a lot coming up next month. I am not in the camp that, this is somehow like the world's craziest triple top and the global top is on Bitcoin. I think we're in a reaccumulation structure right now. I think, like Jackus pointed out yesterday, probably worst case here would be, full fill of the CME gap at 64, 65K roughly, whatever, somewhere, around the mid 60s. That would probably be your worst case. But at the end of the day, like whether we get there or not, it's kind of inconsequential to me.
It's not going to happen.
Hang on, Will. I'm seeing Bitcoin miners looking solid today, showing strength. I'm not concerned about this local volatility at all. So those are some opening remarks for me, just because I know everyone was like euphoric at 9:15 a.m. Eastern time, and then 9:45 a.m. Eastern time, everybody's like in the doom or bear camp again. And guys, like you can't fight fate. You can't fight the inevitability. You can't stop Bitcoin. You cannot stop what's about to happen. And by the way, this case has to do with a US based exchange and a handful or two handfuls of altcoins that maybe are unregistered securities or not. And again, we're going to be at least 2 years out, most likely, from a definitive resolution on this. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin. And a lot of proof of work assets. So again, it's growing pains of a fresh asset class. And you can't, there is zero signal on a weekly chart for this case determining what price is doing. Like literally zero. This doesn't affect the bull market. This doesn't affect the Bitcoin halving. We knew this was coming. The case wasn't going to get dismissed, before discovery or anything like that. I mean, it's whatever, like literally whatever. So anyways, I'll stop monologuing, but I wanted to get those thoughts out there because I know a lot of people are just, concerned about this, but this doesn't change jack shit for me. Nothing.
But here's the thing, like the XRP thing doesn't matter. None of that shit ever mattered. Like I think people focus too much on like just the most irrelevant stuff in the world. Like it's XRP case never mattered. Like people say it does, but it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. Why? Because this is the great Wild West. It's the casino that never closes, and it's worldwide, right? And everybody can participate in the same casino. And I think like when you look at it from that aspect, there's going to be a lot of liquidity flow. It doesn't matter what bear case people come up with. They're like, your bear cases are done. Bears don't even exist. They're extinct now. They're an extinct creature. If you claim to be one, you're a false idol at the end of the day because there's no such thing as a bear anymore. They've absolutely went to sleep. I think like if you're sitting here, you're like, oh, the pullback, look, none of that stuff, like it's not a real thing. There's no such thing as a pullback. Some of you may be like, oh, TA, you're supposed to pullback happen. Look, pullback's not going to happen. It's absolutely not. Like your 50K targets, they're not getting filled. Just like your 30K targets never got filled, your 20K targets never got filled, your 50K targets are not getting filled. I'm just being real. Like it's like, people are ignoring the easy. Like, look at Bitcoin's Chad this morning. Do you think that was somebody shoving to be completely collapsed? Absolutely not. No, they're controlling price within this range. They're continuing to shake people out before the breakout. And that's all this is at the end of the day. The whole 40K sideways, like if you took an arrow, pushed it sideways, and then ran straight up, that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to sit here, we're going to chop between these two ranges for the next month or two, and then we're going to go straight up, just like in a straight line. Like people who think, oh, it's going to be a slow. No, there's no slow, there's no gradual. Your pullback happens at like 90 to 100K. And then at that point, you're going to get a real pullback. And then people are going to believe that it's going to go higher. And then what are you going to do for positioning? Like people sitting on cash, I'm not even making fun of you anymore. I actually feel bad for you, right? I feel really bad for you. If you're sitting here and you're thinking that you're going to catch some kind of drop, it's just absolutely, like, go back and look at the timeline. Like look, I'm not saying I'm like the GOAT of all time, but I've been on point with every single breakout, the buy just before the breakout. And I'm telling you that the 61K that touched, that's your bottom. That's your bottom. You might come back close to that later, but you're not going any deeper than that. That's it. The market showed you what it'll give, and it showed you in that first wick.
But gotta agree on with Will is that there is lots of people waiting for like a very deep pullback, right? Like what I think that will do not mean is that like we can pull back to 64K or something. That's totally doable. What Will is trying to say, I think, hopefully, and he's right on that, is that there is so many people waiting for like 40, 30K pullback for like, the infamous pre-halving dump. And I think that's really just a wishful thinking at this point, because you really gotta be respecting the TA levels. People that do not do that, they pay the price. And I
Yeah,
hear that repeatedly from people in my sorry, I paused there. And I hear that repeatedly from people in my real life too, that they missed the boat and they wanna buy in, but they want to buy in at, they do not want to buy in here. They are still looking for 40K retests or something.
it's a control range. I don't know how people can't see. Like, do people not know what a control range is? They're literally controlling price between these two ranges. It's very easy to see. They did the same thing at 40. When it came back and touched 40, that was a control range. You could see it on the daily. You obviously couldn't see it too much on the higher, but you could see it easily on the daily that they were controlling price. And that, again, that was the shakeout before the breakout. They dipped into 40, promising 30, and 30 never came. And now they dipped into 60, promising 50, and 50 is not going to come. Santa Claus is not real. I don't know how many times I have to come on the show and tell people. I know we celebrate Easter, but there's no bunny. The only bunny is an actual bunny that you can eat or that's a rodent. That's it. There's no Easter bunny that's the size of a human being.
Are you sure?
Are you sure about
I
that,
mean,
Will?
show me a textbook or some kind of historical factor showing that they ever existed, let alone that you've actually seen one in real life.
All right, let's talk constructive price action and things like that. What are we seeing in the markets, guys?
I mean, I do agree with Will on this point. I mean, it's not exactly similar to 40K range, but there are some similarities, as outlined on the chart. I mean, like you guys said, I don't think the Coinbase news is anything. I think they just used it like a good old Powell event to run everybody's stops on both sides. We had the little double whipsaw. It was entertaining, but I think
Listen,
this
SEC
result's
is on
higher.
crack right now, because like
Yeah.
they're just like it seems that Gary Gensler went completely mad, put on some heroin or something, because he's living in a parallel universe trying to sue everything and everyone, and everyone's like, "Are you fucking mad?" And like every single, not just the crypto companies, but it seems even the senators, sorry, not sure how to pronounce that, in a US court, everyone's just kind of mad at him at this point. Like, what are you doing? You're legit abusing your power, and he is probably going to go down and as one of the biggest,
He's a
or let's
clown,
say
the
least.
biggest
Yeah,
clown.
exactly. He is going to go down as the least trusted chairman in history, it seems like.
I can't believe this is the same guy that promoted Algorand. Like, it blows my mind, right? You promote a VC scam and then you come in and call everything a scam in crypto. It's hilarious. It really blows my mind. Like, Gary Gensler is a literal joke. I don't think anybody should listen. Like, it's almost like going and be like, I need to take financial advice from Jim Cramer. That's what it sounds like to me when you talk about Gary Gensler, because
So,
they're basically in the same boat.
I'd like to steer the conversation more towards what we're seeing in the charts and prospecting trades and setups. Tucker, are you seeing anything? Signal and Sol, any like alt BTC pairs? How is everything reacting
Thank
today?
God you mentioned Soul, man. Thank God. So what I was seeing, let me go back to Bitcoin. Let me delete all this. What I was seeing was, okay, ETH had it too. I'm gonna just put all three on the chart actually.
You know what's funny there, Tucker? It
Hey,
looks like a
Will.
falling
Hey,
channel.
Will. I'm gonna need you to dial it back like 2 or 3 notches. All right. We're trying to like talk charts here, and we can't even get a thought in. I love you, man, but just crank it down a tiny bit. All right. Thank you.
Here. So these gaps all have filled at least to the midpoint. I'm gonna make this nice and pretty. Okay, ETH filled it a little bit more, but let's make the old white line there in the middle. Yeah, ETH filled it a little deeper because ETH has been trading not as great, honestly. But and let me draw out souls. Here's the 4-hour FVG. Yeah, so they've all dipped into these 4-hour inefficiencies, and obviously you can see Bitcoin and ETH had a much more inefficient move up, you could say. These are all on the 4-hour, but these, I mean, ETH and Bitcoin really put in these god candles. Sol put in one candle and then kind of drifted higher, but I don't know. I think this is a pretty important area for all of these assets to hold. Most likely, would want to see that diagonal hold as well.
They can go lower, man.
Yeah, no, they can go lower for sure. They can go lower, but in terms of like imminent upside continuation, you would definitely want to see these hold. If not, we're probably just gonna chop and range for, you know, probably until the halving. If we start losing these FVGs, is
that would be for the best, if I'm being honest, Tucker. Like, I do not want to see BTC just straight continuing higher, because that's not that you do.
Yes, I mean we've chilled
but
here.
But do you understand the consequences of that?
I mean,
if we just going to keep
I guess it's only been 2 weeks, hasn't it? I mean, yeah,
you guys are focusing way too much on FVGs. I'll just say it like it is. Like I feel like it's too much focus on them, because there's been so many FVGs that have been left behind. Like I don't even know why this is even like in an uptrend, an FVG can get left because it can get filled
for
later.
sure. We left a bunch. We left a bunch back here. Obviously, like we haven't left this. Like we've basically filled it. But I'm saying in terms of like, are we going to continue up to 75K imminently? This would need to hold. If not, we're probably just going to continue to like, you know, do one of these.
I don't even know why. Like it's almost like you could drop a fib from the high to the low. You can see we're going to go a lot higher than 75K. Like your first resistance should be your POC, your middle of the fib between the 1 and the 1618, and that should be your first resistance. That's way higher than 75K. It's pushing in the 80s and 90s.
No, I know. Just super locally speaking, super local. I mean, obviously, like, because it's not even like alpha to say we're going higher. It's like, yeah, we're going higher. Like, okay, now what? Like, right? Like, you know, it's not even a conversation. We know we're going higher. Like, we know we're gonna go to 80 or 90K, but like, what are we gonna do in the short term? Is why these are drawn out right here, right? Like if we can hold these levels, I think at least on Sol too, if you can kind of hold this confluent, you know, 178, 179, I think you look pretty decent. I guess you could draw a fib on Sol as well.
How many days in the previous 2 cycles did we, after sweeping the Bitcoin all-time high, how many days on average did it take before things heated back up again? Was it a month? Was it a week?
Yeah, no, the some guy on Twitter that I've been following has actually been mapping out the all-time high volatility super well. But like, how long did this take? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like, how long did that? And you don't even have to do from the sweep. Like, maybe from right there where you have it, like November 20th. Like, when we
22
how
days.
long did it take? How much chop occurred before because I mean, we're in a bull market, right? We would all agree with that. We're all going higher. We all agree with that. It's the most probable outcome at this point. The market and the stage are set for it. But this type of volatility at this juncture is not uncommon. And at the same time, I don't want to say the bull market hasn't started yet, but Bitcoin hasn't really entered price discovery yet. And historically, we know that that's when the real fun begins, is when Bitcoin not just sweeps or, you know, casually gets a little bit above the previous all-time high, but actually gets above the all-time high in a capacity where every week, you know, you're in price discovery. And we haven't seen that quite yet. But what we have seen has happened the previous 2 cycles. So I guess just what I want to figure out is, since we are doing historically the same pattern that we've always done, which is sweep the all-time high, pull back, reaccumulate, altcoins get destroyed, people get frustrated. How much longer can we expect from this? And I'll give my answer first while Tucker's mapping this out. I low-key think it's going to be like 7 to 10 days into April. I think we're going to maybe even set our Q2 low early on in the quarter. At least I hope I do. I hope that we do. But then from there, I would expect a pretty bullish, at least like remaining 90% of Q2. So I've been saying this for a while. Like, I just don't, it's going to be kind of an annoying week or two, and it's already been an annoying week or two, but I don't think it makes sense to really send us much higher in Q1. I think the highs are probably in, and we'll see in Q2. But the good news is it's March 27th. So we're almost there.
I'm a little confused because I feel like we're talking about like we're not going to hit. We already hit price discovery. We've already violated the high. Like we're just not sitting in it. That's the only difference. I think like that's very important context. Like if we reject it before price discovery, that's a big red flag. But we've already entered it. We've already entered it, backed off, and we're more than likely going to chad right through it. And I think like if you looked again at the 40K range, you had about 2 months of sideways action, which if you just took that whole range right there and just dropped it on top of where we are now, it pulls us a month into the halving, and then we go up. And I think like time frame, that's realistically like, and I guess for me, I know we're talking about short term, what are we looking for, yada yada. It's like, what is your expectations of downside? How can you expect much downside at all, really, in this chop range? And how would anybody have the ability to catch that downside if we're expecting this thing to just move sideways? I think it would be almost improbable for somebody to come in and try and even look for downside and try and target it as a price target to try and buy into the market. I think you almost have to close eyes, blind, and shoot here because it's your last opportunity before the move up, because you're going to chop sideways, yes, but you're going to move up.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the range we've been prospecting that we've been in, which is 2020, right before we broke out from the all-time high. And Max, to answer your question, from the point of basically the sweep, it didn't quite sweep it here, but it was 22 days. Where did I draw this from? Yeah, here, 22 days until we basically, what this would equate to is us blasting past 74K essentially. So 22 days is actually today, to a T, right? Like it's literally today. So might take a little bit longer. I mean, we could put 2017 up here as well. That might have taken a little bit longer. We should actually definitely do that. But yeah, that's kind of the time frame that we're working with, because I don't know. I mean,
In
again, this was
2017, it took
post
60
halving
days.
though. This was post halving, you know what I mean? So that would be another case for the front running cycle. Let's see though, 2017. What'd you say, Jackus?
About 60 days before it really started to break higher.
60. Yeah, I mean, if you take it from here,
No, not even that. That's even more.
that's 100 days. From
Yeah.
there, yeah, it was 53 days, about 60 days. Yeah, until you broke it, until you actually broke the wick, though, it was 63 days. Yeah, so anywhere between now and another 40 days, which would put you right around the halving. I mean, the halving's in like 3 weeks, but another 40 days would be just after the halving. I think that makes a lot of sense. So we could shop around in range for the next month, basically, and then the sell in May crowd is just absolutely wrong to an insane degree, and we just go straight up. And that's, I'll do this also. I know Max likes these aligned.
It's literally what I've been saying though, Tucker. Is like this sell in May thing is it seems more like I guess a hope than a realistic scenario when you're looking at this chart. And if you were to scoot your chart over a little bit, it looks to me like your lineup actually should be more to the right. Why don't you take that drop you have on Bitcoin there on the very left chart and scoot it over to your right a little bit, the green area, and
What?
line that drop up with that first drop,
That?
like that. Yes. Arguably, I'd say that's where you're sitting at right now. And that would mean that we're going to go a little bit higher here and then maybe chop that down, retest all-time high, and then take off.
Yeah, so 2017 was a little more volatile, but if you map it out like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. If you map it out like 2020, I'm going to take all of this off. We did this like a month ago too. What you did was, let's just do one of these. You put in 2 highs and one was lower, right? Actually, I put in a higher high there, but doesn't have to be perfect, right? You did one of these. You did one of these, and then you went, you know. So could we come down and put in a, you know, do the chop and range for the next 30 days? That lines up time-wise with what we just talked about. Come
I
down
think
here and do this and then go.
on the left chart, you want to make, you maybe want to move one of the arrows to the left sweep, because that was the first time we swept all-time high. Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
could.
so you technically already got your higher low. Yeah.
Well, if we're
If you
there,
if
then we
if you
should
if
go
you
sooner, maybe even.
if you want to make the 2017 fractal, I think this is the fair take. But I still think that we rather range here.
Yeah. Yeah, because you didn't really put in the same structure in 2017, but it took 3 times as long, right? And you kind of did this grind up into the all-time high, and then you just went. So where's the all-time high? I mean, if we're looking at 2017, it's pretty much saying like you're in here somewhere, maybe.
You're on that first pullback is where you'd be. You're
I mean,
you're not on the grind up.
I really wouldn't look at either of those. They are just anticipation. Like in a way, I would look at them as it's more likely that we continue higher. But the structure is quite clearly going to be different than in both of those cases. Like it's going to be a thing on its own and should be treated that way. But so it's not going to be exactly the same. What should be taken from this is that the sweeps of all-time highs are totally normal. They shouldn't be feared, and continuation higher is likely. But you know, is it going to be 20 days? Is it going to be 60 days? Is it going to, you know, jerk around a little bit? That's totally fine. You know, just treat it based on its own levels.
That's kind of what I was saying too, Jack. It's like I wasn't really getting the understanding of the trying to time this, because I think like the ultimate goal is like, and I know it's every day it's up, but it's like there's really no other direction here. Like unless you're a bearish here, there's no direction and really no alpha in any type of drop that I think that's even going to wreck altcoins. I mean, the last drop, all the coins already recovered, every one of them. Like you could have just held it. There's no point even trying to buy and sell, because if you did, more than likely you would have gotten higher because you would have sold probably near bottom in the red days, and then that thing would have recovered so fast you'd be right back to where you started, and now you've bought with less coin.
Tommy, what do you think?
No, I think and Max pointed it out, like the fact that we're coming into a new quarterly candle is definitely something that I think if you weren't considering, it's probably something to think about, since we will set a low on that quarterly candle. We'll have a low on the April monthly. And given the trend in the context of the fact that it is kind of just like a inevitability, rather than, at least we view it as an inevitability, rather than like an if, you know, it's more of a when. I think you're fishing for any dips that you get in the beginning of April to be buying. But I don't think it's really a market where you can, expect to get a really greedy entry either, because it hasn't provided you any, quote unquote greedy entries in months at this point.
I think one thing that we can look at to really justify times and the current range would be to look at the prior one around 40K. the 48 to 40K range. And let's look at how long that one took. And I think this one should be similar time frame before higher. So I would say
quarterly candles. This one had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterly greens. After the consolidation, we've had 2. Prepare yourselves.
We have a lot more to give.
Yeah, you should either get. I mean, we had 1 less. Maybe we get 3 blow
So
off.
three more would be more or less just through the end of this year, sell in Q1 2025, if the same pattern plays out, right?
Or 5, 4, we get 1 more green quarterly, just monster, and then we do one of these 2013, and then
Run again.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
Imagine, guys, if we arrange here until May, and then you will have sell in May, go away, and instead it pumps in May.
Jack, that's exactly the boat I've been in, man. Like that's why when people talking about slowdown in summer, I'm just like, bro, I don't know. I think people are just so hungry. They've sat through the bear for so long that they're willing to just take their summer off, ignore their vacations, and throw the money in the market and see what they can get out of it.
If we don't get a dip into mid-May, then I do think you will probably have some sort of May sell-off. But if we have the quarterly sell or whatever within the first 2 weeks of the quarter, then I don't think we'll sell in May. And I do think that would be very favorable to summer speculation. Because when was the last time that the market was really popping off over the summer? And I'm not speaking about just crypto, but also equities as well, just in like a super strong bull trend over the summer. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's. Oh, go ahead.
But what I really think is going on here is that BTC is swapping hands, where lots of people that bought to the top in 2021 are selling here, while smart money is scooping up everything they are selling. And this swap will take some time, that range. People will also get anxious the longer it's ranging here, because we are still kind of at around all-time highs. There will be all these bears. The longer we spend here, the more propaganda we will get, like, hey, we got a sweep of all-time highs and the big pullback to 40K is coming, right? And all of that. And I think we just form a range. It will be super healthy too. Otherwise, if you're just going to keep going up very quickly higher, the market will get overheated way quicker and top way quicker. So any longer periods we spend here is very healthy and good for us.
Max, it's Q2.
Oh, sorry.
Time flies.
Yes.
It does. No, I knew it was Q2. I need some stimmy, guys. I ran out of it was a tragedy this morning, guys. So I ran out of coffee filters at my office, and I'm excited for this coffee, man. And I run out of my coffee filters. But I open up a drawer and someone drinks tea in my office. I don't know who, but there's like little tea filters, tea bags that you stuff like tea leaves into. Not meant for coffee, like ground coffee at all. But I was like, I'm making this coffee. So I stuffed a bunch of coffee into like a tea bag, like coffee grounds, and then somehow figured out how to get the water through it. So it was kind of a bad coffee experience, which is tough for me as a man. But anyways, Q2 open, guys. Q2 open. Guys, please do us a solid. We got 191 people on YouTube and probably twice that on X. Guys, do us a solid. If you're enjoying the content, take 1 minute out of your day. Hit that thumbs up button for us, guys. We are so appreciative of you guys being here every single day and supporting us. But if you really, really want to support us, we need you to hit that like button, guys. It really helps us. Again, we dream of living in a world where we don't need likes, but we're far away from that. So do us a solid. Let's at least get to 100 likes here on YouTube. We're still in the 80s.
What?
We're still, no one's liking it. No one liked it. Everyone heard me and just said, fuck this guy. We're not going to like shit. No. You will stream for free. Dance monkey. Let's go.
They weren't happy that we their meme coin shilling.
What Max, like again, I want to kind of come back to this because I guess I'm just a little confused because we were talking about we want to look at the TA, we want to talk charts, but like what alpha is in this TA outside of up?
Well, that is the alpha. That's the end of the story. It's painting the picture as to why, from a technical perspective, up. But you're jumping to the end by just saying, I'm not willing to have the conversation. We're going up. Listen to me. So I'm just trying to paint the picture as to what that might look like.
No, and I get that, and I think like a sideways market is a possibility, and that's why I don't know, I was just a little confused by the conversation because it's like, uh, we're alpha feeding here, but Bitcoin's just gonna Chad, right? Like, I mean, if we were talking price, I would much rather look at a chart like Ethereum or Solana and guess those ones as far as directionality, but I almost think they're gonna follow. But more weaker assets would probably give you more volatility, which would give you probably better entries, to be honest, rather than even like Bitcoin's almost a misnomer that you already know the inevitability. So it's like, what would be, better beta that'll give you better volatility, that'll give you better entries. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, let's keep Bitcoin up here and let's look at altcoins then, huh? Why not? So, looking at altcoins, man, I think most of us are in the camp that it's possible, we see an extended Bitcoin season. It maybe at least for like one more push up. Eventually we will have, like a real alt season. But what would that look like, right? So Bitcoin's up top, and then we have others down below, which is like everything in crypto minus the top 10 by market cap. So if we're looking at this, what could we potentially expect out of it? I think it's probably fair to assume that, let's actually zoom in a little bit because I actually think that this price action looks kind of similar. Tucker pointed this out and it does look quite similar, right? Like this area back here when we had a rejection in, early January, I feel like it looks somewhat similar to where we're at right now. So, what happened with altcoins down here? You could see that they got hammered pretty hard. Like Bitcoin, obviously dropped aggressively, but others dropped, very, very aggressively as well. Like, that was a big drop. So, I think it'll probably just take a little bit of time, but there's some pretty clear outperformance that I think is going to happen from altcoins here soon. It's just going to require Bitcoin to cooperate. It's just going to require Bitcoin to cooperate.
I mean, it looks like a lot of outperformance to me, just looking at the two. Like, it's almost like your second leg up on alts is like just massive compared to Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, let's see, right? Let's throw it on here. So others, same price scale.
Yeah, that one.
And then we'll do this on the right, and then we'll do percent. Okay, so from which starting date do you want to go? So we could go, this is January 1st right here. So since January 1st, Bitcoin has been outperforming alts by a little bit as a basket. So orange is BTC. It's been like almost tied, right? Like whatever. But we haven't actually, like, what we should see for alt season, we'll just call this alts. It's actually called others on TradingView. But what we really should see is like very, very clear and obvious outperformance. Like they're more or less, they're trading blows back and forth, and you can see here on the right, it's kind of small. Bitcoin since January 1st, roughly up 63%, while alts are up 59.5%. So it's pretty close. But, if we go back to last cycle, right, and you look at, when Bitcoin got into price discovery, oops, we're going to turn that off and go percent. So Bitcoin got into price discovery right here. Okay, so let's let's go from right here. When Bitcoin entered price discovery, you can see the pronounced outperformance from altcoins, right? Like in a real raging bull market, Bitcoin's down below in orange. Altcoins are obviously up here in purple. That's what I'm looking for, is the breakaway. And the breakaway here, they're kind of all through this region right here, Bitcoin and altcoins, when Bitcoin is, in price discovery, but not like, anything too crazy. All of this right here that I'm just going to put in, we'll just put it in blue. It's kind of tied. Their altcoins are keeping up, but they are lagging a little bit. But I want to see this breakaway. This, Bitcoin moves up, but altcoins just far and away destroy Bitcoin. And we haven't even gotten that yet, not even close. We're still kind of in this blue region where they're both doing pretty well. But we haven't seen alt season yet. Look at the difference here. This is what we're looking for. This is when the real money is made. But it's also when you're getting towards the end of a cycle. So the sooner that we have alt season, that's when the clock starts. That's when you really start to go, okay, I'm going to sit on my hands and ride this, but I'm no longer prospecting like fresh capital. I'm prospecting
Max,
when I want to start selling. Yeah.
what if we have like 2 alt seasons where we have one right now, it's like semi one, then BTC continues to chadds up way higher, and then there is the last one you talked about when the clock starts ticking.
What would that look like in your opinion? Would you ever share a chart, Jackus, and maybe draw that out? I'd love to see that visualized, because I think it's an interesting scenario. I could see it. It would kind of
I have
align
a
with like a
coin that
double top again, like, or something like a double cycle, 2 within 1.
Because 2020 to 2021 had like 3 alt seasons,
Yeah.
if you want to classify it like that. You had DeFi summer in 2020. You had the spring of 2021, which was the biggest alt season. And then you had the fall of 2021, which was smaller alt season, but at the end, alts outperformed Bitcoin to a substantial degree still, even though the dispersion and breadth within the market wasn't the same as the spring.
Haha, you had to say it,
Yeah,
Tommy.
I had to say it. I had to say it. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look at this, man. Look at this. So, I mean, this is the most incredible part is, Bitcoin put in a double top, obviously. Like here's your first Bitcoin top, and then here was your very predatory double top. And altcoins during that time, actually, I mean, it put in a double top, right? But we went from a percentage perspective, seriously, higher. So from this low, from the starting point when the bull market really began, went from up 700% to up 900. So there was still a lot of meat. Like this was, if you played this move right here, this was still a 500% banger right here on the second leg, where Bitcoin, it went up maybe 2x roughly. Yeah, about 2x. So if we did get something like this, and I'd love for you to show it, Jack, is what you're thinking, maybe we could, I mean, this would be an awesome opportunity, right? Like recognize the signs, take big profits on alts, wherever that may be. Maybe you're saying it's here, I don't know. And then look to play a second one later on. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I could, but I'm not going to for 80 likes, man.
Oh, we have more than 80 likes. We have 125. You're good.
You
No.
guys, it's like they went full circle from greedy Jackass meme to now they just don't hit the like button, man. We gotta go back to pressing them maybe a little bit more on the like button.
I do have some real alpha though, and if in Ethereum Max, which actually goes against the sell and may go away scenario. If you wanted to pull that up.
You want me to pull up ETH?
Yep. So 2021. Look at that first run up. What
Right here?
month was that? Nope. Very top. What month was that?
This first top was in May.
What are we in right now?
We are in March.
Okay. So let's say theoretically ETH keeps running and gets to like 4,500, 5K, 6K, somewhere's in there. Where do you think it'll be in May? That ends up happening.
So this is the fractal. So will this right here is March, somewhere like, oops, right in here.
Doesn't that look pretty similar to where we're at?
It does. I mean, the big difference, of course, is that was above the previous all-time high,
Mm-hmm.
and right now we're below it. But yeah, I mean, I could see something like that for sure.
We could simply be underperforming right now. That's basically all it is. You have a very similar structure there as you do here in reality, and it moves just like Bitcoin did, except it's moving under all time high instead of above it. And if we were to do that, alts are going to go ballistic, and that means that for me, that would say our cycle is sped up, and we'll probably get that double top again. But ultimately, this will be your bull run year.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I like to even entertain the idea that somehow like we're not about to have price discovery to any degree. Like I've seen a lot of this online, and this is what I'm talking about. Not anybody in the comments necessarily, or you guys. It just seems like there's a lot of people out there that are completely in denial, and they're actually interpreting Bitcoin being around the previous cycle all-time high before the halving, which has never happened before, as something bearish. Where when I look at that, I go, this isn't bearish. I was like, this is a market that has more demand than there ever has been. I don't think it's necessarily like an expedited or, front ran cycle. I think it's just the market maturing, not being as fussy about entries. And there's new players that are here for the long term. At least hopefully we'll find out, but that's my best guess. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like we just had looking at, let's look at ETH has been kind of underperforming, right? Or at least just not performing how we had hoped. This is a pretty damn bullish, quarterly candle right here for ETH.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wouldn't look at this and think, oh yeah, like this is time to like really get bearish for the next quarter. I'm not a huge like proponent of, doing TA on the quarterly chart, but I think there is something to be said about, at least a strong Q1, right? Like let's go back and look at Bitcoin here. All right. Here's Bitcoin on the index. Okay. So let's mark out some Q1s. All right. And just see how things have gone. So we had a green Q1 here, and I'll draw like the Q1 close. All right. Can you guys see that line here? I'll make it a little bit thicker. This was our Q1 close right here. And then we're going to find another Q1. Here again, another Q1. And then we're going to keep moving forward. Here was your Q1 close. Right, so I'm just kind of marking out like when we have Q1s, what typically happens. So here's Q1. And I think like with anything, context is key, right? So maybe it'd make more sense just for the purposes of this, like let's throw on the Bitcoin halvings just so there's not as much clutter. All right, let's do it as it pertains to closer to the halving. So right before and then after the Bitcoin halving. So here's, all right, well, we kind of had COVID here. This was a little bit weird.
Well, while you're drawing that up, Max, I would say there's probably more alpha in the queues for this than there is in Bitcoin, to be honest with you. The queues haven't missed a single Q1 to where if the Q1's bullish, the rest of the year is bullish. If the Q1 is bearish, the rest of the year is bearish, and that's for queues.
Qs haven't had that?
They've been like that for 70 years.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just looking at this, like this feels, so COVID was weird, right? But looking at these previous two right here, your Q1, before the halving, if it's bullish, you're strong into the halving, and then Q1 after the halving, you get some continuation. Same thing here for the second halving. Strong into the halving, bullish Q1 after the halving, we continue. Something similar, right? Q1 before the halving, and I guess, we just recently had another one here, right? So we'll see. Like, I guess it would imply kind of following this trend maybe we get even another bullish Q1 later on. But yeah, I mean, the chart just looks solid. Like, I know like the local volatility is, you know, it's annoying, but this is, I mean, look at this. Look at this Q1 close, man. Look at this. If we close above here, it's like, it's huge.
Did you get the context I was talking about though with the Qs?
Yeah, let's even pull them up, man.
So the triple Qs, they've marked tops and bottoms of every cycle or every year. Sorry, quarter Q1.
Triple Qs. I've never heard them called that before. I want to talk about one of these big tech stocks on this show, guys. I actually found a pretty good piece of alpha on one in particular.
So if the triple Qs mark a green Q1, then the rest of the year is bullish. If the triple Qs mark a red Q1, they mark the rest of the year as bearish.
I wonder if there's
guys, do you remember when the bears told us, like, so you really think that BlackRock is going to come here and not completely crash the market to accumulate very low? Do you think they will buy this high? And then the market proceeded to do one of the largest monthly candles in its history.
Bro, that was the biggest L take I've ever seen a bear take in their life. Like, you can't live that down.
BlackRock changed the unit cost on Bitcoin, and we're like, watch this. How much is IBIT per share? I mean, boomers aren't thinking about like what? I mean, $70,000 Bitcoin. They're thinking about $40 IBIT shares.
You think?
I mean, that's probably for some of them. Yeah, I would have to think.
Well, they can tell their friends that they have Bitcoin, right? They have $200 in Bitcoin, aka buying sats through Larry Fink, and they can tell people I have exposure to crypto. Look.
Well, I always felt like Sats was maxi cope to try and get people to ignore the unit cost biases that are definitely present with Bitcoin, but
definitely
Wall Street's got their own ways of mitigating those unit cost fears. And I don't really know that they care about unit cost biases anyway. I don't remember who was talking about it on this show. It might have been on a Giga Chad call or something, but like, I mean, boomers don't think about unit costs when they're buying things like Berkshire Class A shares. I know that much. Or Class B shares. There's literally specific, or there's literally different categories of those shares. I mean, and there's a specific reason for them. But I mean, really, the main difference to me with those is the unit cost bias aspect of it. If you can afford to buy a Class A share, then I mean, you'll do it. But if you can't, you can only afford like Class Bs, then yeah, it's the same thing. So it's just about like mitigating the appearance of something being expensive. Because I mean, people really don't care about market caps and stuff like that if they don't have any, like, because most people don't think about market caps. So like let's be honest.
Yeah, but Tommy, who started all this trend? It was Robinhood. Robinhood started all this. And now these other stock companies are seeing this opportunity in crypto, and they're taking that opportunity.
I do want to talk about one stock real quick before we move on to altcoins. If you could pull up the Apple chart, Max, and how many likes do we have before I give this alpha away? Actually,
don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
How many likes do we have before I give away the alpha?
All right, let's see.
Nobody
135.
wants to share for a cheap engagement. Rightfully so.
But yeah, guys, I look at that. Zoom in on those that double top on Apple. Just the double top. Not the whole range, but yeah, just that part right there. What do you think of? What do you guys think that pattern reminds me of?
A Bitcoin. Oh dear.
It looks very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, man. That didn't take too long to spot. I've
already overlaid it. It fits like a glove. I will say that. But yeah, wow. I know everybody's getting very bearish on Apple here. Meanwhile, it's holding the lows. It's holding market structure. I don't remember why they were fudding Apple earlier this week. I just know I saw some of the usual suspects in there talking about how it was over for Apple. But I had a friend bring this to my attention this morning. He was talking about the Apple or the NVIDIA to Apple rotation. I think this is probably a good spot to look for that rotation to start occurring. Ironically, right after NVIDIA flips Apple for largest market capitalization company in the world. But I see the pattern, the double top, not from the Bitcoin like 60 to 30K, but I think more so Bitcoin from the 25 to 30K range that we just broke out of a few weeks or a few months ago. Not that. No, that's not what I was thinking. But
Listen, Tommy, it's over. It's so over. Look at it. Zero. Every bear propaganda.
Is there a CME gap down there?
Wait,
We
what?
gotta. Is there a CME gap down there? We got to fill it before we go higher.
Oh, absolutely. We
I
need
mean,
to
Tommy,
sweep the equal lows. We need to sweep the equal lows here. Listen, it's over. We are going to sensing.
That's hilarious. Like I drew that same thing. I'm not gonna lie, and I was like, oh, it's just gonna break out more. It's just gonna break to the upside. I'm like, it's gonna invalidate the bearish trend. Like, if you're bearish Apple, like, there's so many people. Like, when you talk about cult mentality, Apple has the biggest cult in the world. It's everybody. All right, whether you think it is or isn't, and that means that Apple never stops going up. It's like an insurance company.
I mean, the world is better off if Apple just keeps going up. Like,
To a
we
degree,
can't have Apple go down, you know? The whole world stops.
I think their innovation has kind of gone downhill a little bit. Like it's just like the same iPhone every year with a new camera, and nobody uses the camera. That's the funny part.
You should try
And
having a 9-month-old. I use my camera a lot, bro.
well,
I'm a
I have a
photographer these
kid.
days.
I have a kid. I'm just saying like families will use them, but you're not using them for professional settings, which is the camera they're selling you, right? It's a little bit different, but I don't know. I think the marker has gone up in price, but the marker on development has gone down, and that's always an issue. There'll probably be somebody who'll come in and challenge the status quo, but then Apple will innovate again. But it's going to take somebody coming in and challenging them first, just like AMD did to Nvidia, right? Just like AMD did to Intel. If these companies didn't have challengers, they'll just stay stagnant and they'll sell you the same product every year with a new sticker.
I mean, we're probably just right here, if we're being completely honest. Like,
Max, can you
Yeah.
take some a fractal of Bitcoin from mid-March of 2023 to the present? Because this is the price action I'm talking about, and it's all gonna click here in just a second. Mid-March 2023.
okay, mid-March would be right
Yes.
here. Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just painted.
I wasn't talking about like Bitcoin's high time frame double top. I was talking about
I see.
this pattern that we saw Bitcoin print at 25K a few months ago. Sure reminds me a lot of what Apple's doing right now. And Apple has been going sideways for a very long period of time. So I do think that this has a chance of playing out, especially if those lows hold, man. You have such a easy and clean invalidation on this one.
I see what you're talking about. You are looking at this right here.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for just putting like the most bearish scenario ever on your.
But yeah,
I see it.
something like that.
Yeah. Like this, more or less.
Yeah.
I see that. I could see that for sure.
Yeah. Like, listen,
And then
Apple.
part of me too. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Jackus. I'll be real quick. I was just going to say, part of me wonders if Apple is leading the S&P, and we end up doing something like what Apple has done over the last few months. But that's what I wanted to say. That's just a theory. I have no idea if it will or not.
So like this right here is what you're looking at. And then yeah, I see this. I can for sure see this. Interesting. Well, I mean, I feel like if you reclaim 180 on Apple, it's time, you know?
Yeah.
It's time.
What are you going to say, Jackus? Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know that, Apple is obviously here to stay, and it's not going to do that much percentage drop unless you would need to get, like, the only way I can justify Apple really dropping in price would have to be some crazy consumer problems where they have to stop consuming for a year or so, and their stock price would down. But apart from that, it's a bit to scoop up. Like, these are the ideal scenarios where, for example, if you have one stock price, like people always talk about like how to beat the index, right? Let's say you have a stock that's currently at its fresh all-time highs. Well, you take profits and you rotate it to Apple right here, and you keep on doing so, because essentially that stock that is pumping will go into a reaccumulation, while Apple will play the catch-up game and start pumping.
Yeah, I think there's a few members of the Mag 7 that I know people are ready to write off as, like fundamentally bearish over a high time frame for X or Y reasons. But I don't see why, looking at their charts, and they're sitting at support, they haven't broken down. It's kind of like the whole ETH Bitcoin conversation. If you have all of this context to send it through support and it's not being sent right through support, then maybe you should be thinking about why that is, especially if that structure continues to hold. And I think that's true of not just something like Apple, but another asset we've been talking about a lot in our Discord is Tesla. Tesla is very, very similar in the sense that it's sitting right on range lows, might be a few weeks away from running, of course, but has every reason, fundamentally speaking, to continue breaking down through this range, and hasn't. It's still holding. So, yeah, I mean, everybody's focused on NVIDIA right now, but it's probably time to start charting some things against NVIDIA for some entries. And I'm talking large caps here, because small caps, it goes without saying that they're going to outperform NVIDIA. If you're bullish on, liquidity continuing to essentially expand, like obviously small caps will outperform something like NVIDIA over a multi-year period. But I think it's time to start looking at some of these large caps as well that are beginning to look really good, I think, on a high time frame.
Do we think this wedge plays on Tesla, guys?
I do.
You think it's going to touch the bottom boundary?
I don't know. I have it drawn because it connects, but I don't know.
Well, what I'm sure is that it for sure breaks the downtrend. It's a local downtrend, temporary downtrend. The downtrend line you have there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw this on there.
I don't think it plays. There's if you look at last cycle, it did the same thing, higher low breakout. So like when I say last cycle, I mean like it literally lines up with the halvings, and it never retested the low. It broke out just about where it is now, and that was 4 years to break out. And now we're at the same cycle top here. We're about to go into the halving. I lined the halvings up on all these, so to show you guys what this is, and you can even see right there, like you're getting the lower low there on the right, but in reality, you had the lower low on the left.
So you don't think this will play well? You don't think?
No.
You think
I
Tesla's
think where we
bearish?
are is the bottom. This is the bottom.
Oh, you think this is the bottom? I thought you were saying Tesla's bearish. I was
No,
like,
no.
oh my gosh,
The-
Will's
Well,
outlook is bearish. What
never.
the heck?
No.
No, I think like it. Max, go back 4 years real quick and look at the breakout. You can drop or I don't know what time frame you're on, but maybe put on like a monthly. Look at the breakout 4 years ago on Tesla.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish this quick. This looks kind of nice, honestly, guys. That looks. You said look at the breakout 4 years ago on Tesla, like
Yep.
this,
Yep.
right here.
So look at that little bottom right there, right in there. So you had the lower low first, and then you had the higher low into the breakout. Right in there. If you line up the halving, it's exactly the same thing. Like put Bitcoin's halving right over there, and you'll see it's the same exact position to break out.
Well, that was in what was the date of the halving again?
I gotta pull up my chart. Give me just a second. I lined them all up on there. Let me just pull it up quick.
There's an indicator. Halving.
So the date was
Here, I got it right here. So
May
the
20th.
first one was, there were a few halvings in here, right? There was one kind of before the breakout here, Will, so July. And then there's a Bitcoin halving in May. And obviously Tesla went on to perform quite well after that, just like everything else did. But
The halving should have been May 20th.
yeah, right here. So it was,
No, the lower one.
these
So-
are all the halvings right here. November 2012, July 2016. May
I'll put
2020.
it in Discord what I have marked out here, but
Well, I'm just like, these are the halvings, you know, like it's marked out.
yeah,
right
I
here.
have them marked too on the indicator.
Well, I'm saying I don't need you to send them to me if I have them right here.
I'm just saying mine are different than yours.
Well, this is
That's awesome.
there's one halving, so one of you is, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
There's
using an
no
indicator
debate.
too.
You can just Google them if you want to.
Yeah. Anyways, it broke out into on that lower end breakout, and I think we're at the same positioning as Q4 there. So if you go down to the bottom just before the spring, you got the breakdown that first half, and then the second half you got the higher low. So if you to draw a trend up there, you're forming a higher low there.
Yeah. So you're talking about this, Will. Like,
Well, no, that's already played. What I'm talking about is just before the breakout. So that first dip, we were just looking at it. Right in there. Yes, that. Yes. If you draw a trend underneath that, yes, that right there. Then, and you were to do the same thing where we are now, it looks very similar, just a lot bigger.
right. No, I could see it. I mean, I don't think it makes sense to be super bearish Tesla here. I mean, I've never been like a huge Tesla stock guy. Like, I understand it's, you know, cult-like and stuff, but
When it's trending, it trades like a dream, though.
oh,
Honestly.
for sure. I'm not bearish Tesla, to be clear. I've never like been a big Tesla guy. Like, I actually like their cars. I've just never been like a big investor in Tesla. But I do recognize the pumpamentals of it, you know, for sure. But yeah, I mean, this wedge looks nice. Let's see. Okay. Let's see here.
Some alts definitely weak today. Definitely think there's a little bit of signal in that.
Yeah, which alt?
Looking at Sol. Weak.
All right, let's.
He says alts and thinks as so.
Sol's my my signal for altcoins. It's always the canary in the coal mine.
It's about to switch to ETH once base starts hitting.
Man, wait for WIF to start pumping, and then everybody who's on base will go back to Sol because there's no.
No, they
token.
won't, bro. Nobody's gonna chase WIF.
They'll be back to base. But base to me right now is like if Arbitrum didn't have a token. Like, would you still?
There's tons of W's on base. You got Toshi, you got Brett. Like I can name them tons of W's on base.
Yes and no.
Name one on Arbitrum.
Well, the best token on Arbitrum is DMT. Let me just say that. DMT is going to pump a lot over the next few weeks. But on base, I really think the capital is going to remain highly, highly mercenary until you have a token. As in, like, people will go back to Sol if WIF starts pumping again, and they'll leave base and they'll come back 2 to 3 weeks later. But I mean, like, usually the opportunities to buy base tokens have been after people leave base, chase, because there's a lot of hype with base, and I think that hype cycle is going to continue to grow. So I'm not saying the base thesis is wrong. Like, I think it's going to continue to get crazier, but those rotations are going to feel mercenary until there's a reason for people to continually park capital on base and something other than meme coins. So when you do get these rotations back into Solana, you're going to get deflation out of base meme coins. And that's when you buy, because that mercenary capital that moved to Sol will come back to base. It's going to bounce back and forth. But I don't know how, I think the capital on Sol will probably be overall stickier until base has a token.
I would agree, Tommy, except the fact that all the memes have ran with base memes or with Soul memes. They haven't dropped at all. So there's been no actual rotation between the two. It's been people have been picking sides on this.
Well, I'm not picking sides, because I will say, like,
No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying like people that are investing. That's what I'm saying. Like they're not willing to switch.
well, the whole reason that like base stuff has been pumping since the beginning of the year, a lot of like I would call it the old guard of ETH people who were kind of too stubborn to bridge to Sol. They haven't been really transacting on ETH. They've been well, I guess they have, like, technically speaking, they've been transacting on base, because there has been way more opportunity on base than there has been on something like ETH or Arbitrum. I still think that the best chance for ETH on chain to pop off and return is through base. That's always been my thesis, but they need a token, man.
I think the biggest use case is actually risk taking.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. By the way, Ivan just sent a super chat saying thoughts on the cycle for BTC being something between 2017 and 2020 in terms of gains. Cheers, chat. Thank you, Ivan. Evan, sorry, not sure how it's pronounced. Yes, I do agree. I think that's the case exactly. Like, I do not think BTC ever. Well, hard to say ever, but like I think it's not going to over pump the previous cycles, but I think in this specific cycle it has a chance outperforming 2020 because of all the confluence that's lining up for it. But it's probably going to be the last one. And with that, guys, I gotta run. So have a good time.
See you, Jackets.
Yeah, I don't know, Tommy. I think people are fading base. I'm not gonna lie, and I think like base token isn't needed. I think Ethereum's fine for it. I mean, I've made a ton on there just playing around. Like I've actually played less on ETH and on base than I have on Solana, and all my Solana coins are red. All my base coins are green. So I mean, I don't, and that's been since I've actually been dabbling in there.
Eventually, I do feel like the bulk of on-chain behavior will eventually move back to ETH, just because the nature of Sol on-chain is so speculative and so comparable to BSC that it's going to be difficult to have, like, I'm calling the capital on base mercenary right now, but I do think you're probably going to see those roles flip, like where Solana capital becomes significantly more mercenary over the next few months, probably over the next year or so. And base will eventually, I do think that base will launch a token, I feel very strongly that they will, and it will be a big middle finger to the SEC. And I think the only token that would be, because Optimism is not the token of base chain, man. Like, nobody wants to bid Optimism. Yes, the chart looks good. It'll pump with other ETH beta, but we're from an incentive standpoint, it's just way too much money that Coinbase would be leaving on the table to not launch a token.
Well, I think their reasoning right now is probably regulation. They're probably trying to watch that kind of play out, and so they're not doing it, and that's allowing ETH to run for now. And I think people need to not discount that ETH can run because they're not doing it. And in addition to that, too, you're seeing significantly less rugs on base than what you're seeing on Solana. And in addition to that, too, and I know you dealt with it because I dealt with it. I've got $10,000 stuck in transactions that won't send or come back And this is just the life of Solana, right? Like it's, and I love how you brought up one more thing. I love how you brought up BSC, because I feel like Solana is the BSC of this cycle, right? It's the front runner that'll later become the back runner, and in reality, what it'll do is it'll provide strength for it later. And where we didn't see a breakdown on BNB like we thought we would, we probably won't see a breakdown on Solana this cycle going into the bear, making it a lot stronger of an asset, but still ultimately kind of fading off into the distance like BSC did this cycle, because nobody's talking about BSC at all or BNB this cycle. So next cycle we may see that for Solana, even though a lot of people think we won't.
Yeah, and another thing that I think is going to potentially end up happening, Will, is there's not a token on base. So if there is a big project that happens to be launching a token on base, it's probably going to do really well. I can think of one that's going to be launching it. I don't have any points for this personally. I know Tucker was trying to get us involved many moons ago, involved with this project to farm some points. But I do think when they launch a token, given that Base doesn't have one, you're probably going to see like a huge rush in capital to bet on Base beta, because there is no really other like easy proxy to bet on the growth of the network other than, meme coins, which can be a little bit fickle, as we all know.
Well, that's how Solana happened. That's how Solana came about. It came about as a meme coin chain, and then became an NFT chain, and now it's back to a meme coin chain. And I think, like, if you're looking at this from the standpoint of Base, you also, one other thing to keep in the back of your mind, I think people should not discount this, is maybe they don't launch their own token. Maybe somebody else launches a token and they adopt it, right? That could happen too. So always keep your eye out for that scenario also.
So I want to address this comment, this super chat. I don't think it's super likely that we're going to get like the exact same returns as 2017. I think from a technical perspective, I'm talking to Evan here again. Thank you for the super chat. I think we could definitely draw some similarities between these, right? If we're looking at, this complacency shoulder, which ultimately led into the bear market, which, happened right at the mid range, bottom out, flip the mid range. I mean, obviously we're somewhere in this region if we are going to compare it to 2017. And I think for a lot of reasons, that makes sense to entertain. But at the same time, the returns that we had, let's just measure this out, right? So from the previous all-time high in 2017, we went up 1,500%. So I like to use these fibs. So like if we're going to measure it in a comparable way, I think using fib extensions is probably better than just raw percentages. So going from the previous all-time high to this 2.7 or 2.272, which is more or less where Bitcoin topped out, it would be 565%, which by the way would be a $460,000 Bitcoin. So I don't even know if I'm expecting that, but point being is in order for us to have from a percentage perspective the same returns, to go up 1,500% from the previous all-time high matching 2017 would require Bitcoin to go to $1.1 million. So to answer your question, thoughts on this cycle for Bitcoin being something between 2017 and 2020 in terms of gains? Definitely not 2017. I would also say probably closer to 2020 if we wanted to mark it out this way. Instead of 2017, let's look at this and say, okay, we didn't hit the we hit the 1.618. That was our top. And then from the previous all-time high, we actually went up, just say 200%. So if Bitcoin went up 200%, that would still be, 200K Bitcoin, which would be, I think if I offered you sign on the dotted line for a 200K Bitcoin, I feel like you'd probably happily take it. You know what I mean? That would be pretty great. So no, I'm not expecting comparable returns to 2017. I wish, you know, a man can hope, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I think it's unlikely. All right, guys. Well, we've been going for about an hour and 25 minutes, so I think this is probably a good place to call it. Guys, thanks so much for being here. As always, this is Market Check brought to you by Because Bitcoin. And before you go, if you could please do us a solid and like and also subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic. Last but not least, check out the first link in the description below, guys. That will take you to our website where you can browse our premium products. Right now, you can join the Discord, and within the next 45 days, you will be given access to the BB Terminal, our new flagship product, for no additional cost, guys. It's basically a Bloomberg terminal, but for crypto, guys. You are going to absolutely love it, and it will be included in your Discord membership. Within the Discord currently, you will get access to all of our technical analysis stuff we don't talk about here on YouTube or on X. We do basically 3 hours a day of private live voice calls with the entire team and community where we narrate everything that's going on in the market. We also share active positions. All right. So if you want to see behind the curtain at how we as a team and as a community are actually positioning in these markets, the Discord is definitely for you. You will find tremendous amount of value in it. So guys, definitely consider checking out the first link in the description below. And again, you will be given BB Terminal for no additional cost. We're constantly working to improve it. So guys, check it out. First link in the description below, but I'm going to kick it over to Snorlax to say a final farewell.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, I was just looking at a thing in our Discord. It's really hard to believe the halving is only 22 days away at this point. We are almost there, guys. 3 weeks. We'll see how Bitcoin trades into it, of course. I see that we are still digesting that Coinbase news with the SEC, like we said at the start of the show. You really want to see 67, 68K, roughly speaking, hold for trend continuation, at least in the interim. Maybe it ranges, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? Maybe you don't get a dip. Maybe you do. Who knows? But we do have our second quarter of the year is coming up. Like Will said, when the first quarter is bullish, historically, that sets a very positive tone for the year. But to touch on some of our programming before we wrap up, a reminder that Market Check will be back for another episode, as we always are, guys, at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. A reminder that we are live every single weekday, Monday through Friday. We talk charts, trading. We have a lot of fun, and sometimes we even harass the comment section for various things like the like button. Of course, we also have our flagship show, which is Market Talk. That's hosted by King Wabi. He does an exceptional job over there. That is a Twitter Spaces, and they talk charts, markets, equities, crypto, everything in between. Have a lot of guests on. And the discussion is always fantastic, whether it's, whether you're talking about macro, whether you're talking about meme coins, you can cover pretty much everything on that space. So yeah, can't recommend that enough. And that is live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, because on Thursdays, as I always say, we give our Giga Chads a little bit of extra love with a longer call in the afternoon. That's something that you can look forward to if you sign up for the Discord membership. So can't recommend that enough either. But that's it from us, guys. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's our usual start time. I think I forgot to mention that Market Talk typical start time is around 4:15 to 4:30 Eastern time. But yeah, guys, that's it from us. Y'all have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday, a fantastic rest of your week. If we don't see you again, I hope that we do, though, for tomorrow's show and maybe even this afternoon show as well. But thanks again, guys. Have a great rest of your day.